You are now listening to the iWalter Show. Real talk about nothing.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird brain. It's a plane. It's iWalter. iWalter. Yes, it's iWalter, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. iWalter, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend ears with his annoying voice, and who disguised as Walter Interranti, mild-mannered janitor for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, nonsense, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of iWalter.
All right. Hey, this is iWalter, the iWalter Show, I should say. It is Thursday morning. It's hard to believe. This week has gone so fast, and I'm going to try to make this like under a half hour if I can possibly do it, simply because I got a call today about my Apple laptop, the one I bring to work normally, and they said, oh, yeah, you were correct. You were right. I said it was a bad cable. They said, well, you need to drop off the computer and the bad cable. This was over at Micro Center in St. David, so it's a good 30-minute drive from my house, something like that. And it kind of just really irritated me because, like, okay, now I got to, the next day they said, yeah, you were right. You just needed a new cable. It's like, okay, so I'm going to go all the way over there again. I really kind of like having a laptop, though. So without it, I'm just kind of lost because, for my free time or my breaks, I usually just don't want to be bothered by anybody anymore because it's just not even worth the effort. So I kind of look forward to, have my laptop. I brought my better one in also tonight. And, I don't like doing that because if that breaks, I'm going to be, pretty much screwed. I actually got so used to the old cheapo laptop I have that I decided to, I'm just going to bring that to, even on vacations, I'll bring both my good laptop and that one. But again, it was designed that, and I even got accidental damage on it, was definitely worth it. I already got my money back on that as far as now because that power cord was probably like $80-90. So I got my money back for a 2-year warranty. If anything else goes wrong, I bring it in, they're just going to replace or give me my money back. So it hasn't cost me anything yet. So minus what I paid for the warranty and the laptop, which is it's like $200-300 at this point. It wasn't that expensive for an Apple. That's cheap. Anyway, there was a couple stories I wanted to read before I head out, and you know what? I said I was going to do this, so I'm sticking to my word. The two people I work with me, but on a different shift. I'm second shift or first shift. I do owe them an apology because they did actually do the work they were supposed to do yesterday. So I'm going to be not them. I'm not saying, oh, well, I'm being the bigger man because of them, but I'm just going to be the bigger man in general, stating that, yeah, I was wrong about that. So, sorry for accusing these people of not doing their work. They actually did it, and they actually did more today, but I still have my doubts. Don't trust me. I still have my doubts. I always question somebody who miraculously does a whole bunch of work. What is their motive behind that? I know you shouldn't think that way, but honestly, I can't help it just because that's a different story, actually. It made me think, actually, today. When I first started at my job that I have now, I had some guy, the guy who basically had taken me on, like you bid on these different jobs, and the guy who had hired me or requested me, I was basically, it was called flex flowed or loan labored over there. He actually made a position to make me permanent because otherwise I would have had to leave that position I'm in now. And it was like, he was a really cool dude. I liked him. He was a really good boss. I won't give his last name because, just to be on the safe side. But his name was Brian. There was a lot of them. Really nice man. Unfortunately, the people who work above me, I guess, as far as blue-collar workers, they hated him. they couldn't stand him. In fact, they always got in arguments with him, like screaming arguments and stuff, the men and the women. And I had this discussion with a friend tonight, and I know people had their likes and dislikes. I never had an issue with this man. They end up making in his life like, okay, you can either quit or we're going to fire you, Merck, because I guess he got enough complaints against him from other people. And, I mean, I felt really bad because the guy was he was really nice. The only thing that I could see what people might be irritated by, and that's like no reason to fire the man, was he just had this monotone way of talking. Like, think of Ferris Bueller with that teacher that would just, talk in that monotone talk. I can't remember. I was going to say Ben Stiller, but that's not it. But he had actually a game show too, that particular actor. He was a game show host. Ben Stein, I think, was his name. Something like that. Because I remember it was called Winstein's Millions or something on that line. And that kind of reminded me of this guy, Brian, the supervisor. He was like a lead supervisor, a head supervisor. But he was really nice because there was times like I got all this paperwork I had to read over, and I said, listen, I'm not going to have time to do this. Can I stay after for a few hours? And he said, yeah, go ahead. No problem. And, he worked with you. If you treated him right and you weren't taking advantage of him, he definitely would take care of you. And that's what I noticed about him. Now, the people who got angry with him were people that were trying to pull fast ones over on him and saying, oh, he's making us work all this overtime that we don't want to do. He's drafting us. And it's like, well, you know what? I don't know the whole story, but my guess is he obviously knew that you're trying to be, because I see this now with people. They're very manipulative, and they all of a sudden they want to work all this overtime that they didn't want to do before, and they said they were being drafted on doing so. And it's like, I don't know about that, but I see now that people are working, 7-day periods in a row, and they're not doing any work, and they're just sitting there and they're doing it again all the time. But see, that was the thing. This other boss that we had, who they basically forced him to quit. He didn't take shit like that. I'm sorry about that, but he wouldn't take the bull crap that people now do. Hey, you know what? If you're going to be at the plant site, you will also be working. You're not going to be sitting around and getting paid just to, just to watch movies and TV shows, or bullshit, or go out for because you want to have a good time with the friends at work, on plant site, of course, but basically wasting the company's money. No, he wouldn't allow any of that stuff. Now, if people heard me say that, they'd obviously get pissed off. But the bosses we have that are left behind, I'm sorry to say this, but they try to be friends. If you're a boss, unfortunately, you can't be friends to your coworkers. That's just a fact. I know that because I ran into that issue. I actually have a friend that used to be my supervisor. He's still my friend, though. But he made it very clear when we're at work, I'm your supervisor, and you got to do what I tell you to do. That's the bottom line. And we, more than once, we had, basically butt heads. I mean, I got to the point that I just almost wanted to knock him out or whatever. I don't know. Don't take that seriously. I'm just saying that hypothetically, but I'm just saying we were basically really button heads. I mean, we were not even talking kind of button heads. This one friend of mine that was also my supervisor. So it's really difficult to lay the line and be a supervisor, and basically you almost really can't show any emotion. You gotta okay, hey, you either do this or you can go home. And that's basically the way this one friend of mine was. And it was at the time I didn't understand it. It was but I I fully understand it now because that is a really tough job. If you do it correctly, if you do your job correctly as a supervisor, yeah, you can, talk to people and be, as a human being and stuff, talk to them like human beings. But you got to also lay the ground that says, listen, just remember, you still have to follow by what I tell you to do. You can't just say, oh, I don't feel like doing it. Which, in Plato's games, oh, well, you're my friend. You shouldn't be treating me like this. Well, I couldn't do it. But the one friend that I still have, I've had him for years, he was able to do it. And it's like, you don't think about it at the time, but then you think about it after the fact, and it's like, that is not an easy job. I mean, it really takes thick skin to do that type of position where, you got to let people know. But the bottom line, I went off track, but most people can't do that. I don't know anybody who really can, and that's the problem at work. I come in and the bosses are palling around with each other, joking and laughing. I'm not saying this guy Brian didn't, but he also, and it was this woman, she was really attractive, I thought. She was from like North Carolina. No, I'm sorry. She was from Georgia. And she was really cool, though. But she was another one. She, she knew when to draw the line, I think. Now, most people would say, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so I don't know what I'm talking about. I mean, people I work with would say that. But anyway, yeah, her name was Amanda. I always thought she was really attractive, but I think she pretty much got the job done. She knew her stuff. But her and this guy Brian were like, when I first started in this building, they were both really good. People almost slipped and said what kind of jobs these are that are above me. But the people above me, they hated both of them. They couldn't stand either one of them. They treated her like she was a nitwit, and this woman, Amanda, and they treated him like he was just a total a-hole. So I never saw either thing with either person. I liked both of them equally the same. Maybe the woman, Amanda, a little bit more in a different way, but that's a different story. But the things got done, and what came out of it, though, is you had a bunch of cranky people because they didn't get their way. And unfortunately, that's the way a business works. You don't have to, your job doesn't have to be a living hell, but you do have to follow some rules. You got to, like my one coworker / friend, a coworker I don't work with, but it's still a friend of mine. She's working in a different part, I guess, part of our job, a different building. And she's got a different boss, and her boss, she says, he lays down the line. Like I said, I work a glorified janitor job. So the people I work with, he would say, okay, your job's, I'm not going to tell you what exactly I do, but it's a glorified janitor job. My friend, she'll say that, okay, he will tell people that, listen, this is your assignment tonight. This is what you have to do. And it means getting garbage. It means cleaning a room. It's not that you're not going to do it, because if you don't do it, you're going to be doing it at a later time, and you're not going to get out of it. See, that's what I respect. And I said to her, yeah, I'd love to have your boss where you used to work and where I still work. We need people like him, this manager. I guess I can get away with saying at least his first name, Dennis. We need somebody like him in our building. Somebody who is like, okay, so you don't want to do your job. Well, that's too bad. You're going to have to do it. I'm just going to continue to give you the same job until you actually do it. If you don't do it, then, I guess you're not going to have a job anymore. So we don't have that anymore. We used to have that. Now we don't. Now what we have is a bunch of people who think that we should know what we're doing, which is true, and they don't want to be bothered with, and they can't lay down the line. Now, we have one boss who's kind of sort of like that, but I don't think particularly he was as good as this guy Brian that I actually really liked. So, yeah, already I went a little too far with that. But I just wanted to get that at least off my chest from tonight. And plus, I want to get up early tomorrow, too. So, yeah, I mean, that's where my I get very skeptic. Where I work, everything has to be documented because it gets checked out by the government. Some part of the government checks out the paperwork that we need to fill out for our job. So the problem with that is, though, anybody can fill out paperwork and say, yeah, I did this, I did that, I did this. Well, if something comes up that product is bad, then that's going to raise a couple red flags. Well, it mentioned that you did all this work, but that your actions don't speak for what is documented. So that's going to be the issue in the future. I don't know how far off, but I think somewhere in the near future that's going to happen. And when it's going to end up happening then, I hate to say it, but these jobs, like the one I work at, I actually made a Freudian slip there, but it's probably correct. They're no longer going to be there because the way the government is making it difficult for companies to actually obtain the amount of work help they have because of health benefits being so expensive or forcing these new health regulations down everybody's throats that, or companies or businesses and all these other ridiculous rules, it's going to get to the point they're going to say, you know what, forget it. We're either going to close down and move out of the country down south or South America, I should say, where there's going to be less regulations and we're all going to be out of jobs, or the way we're going now. And the main reason it's going to be, it's like, why are we paying all this money, like tons of money for these people that just sit there and do hardly anything or basically nothing at all? If I was a company, I'd question it myself. But that's a different story again. Whatever. But yeah, these two going back, these two women that worked before I come in, they actually did a lot of work. I was actually shocked, but I still scratched my head. But they actually did. So I apologize for stating that they didn't do any work yesterday. If they listen, which I doubt it, nobody listens for my job, which is fine with me. I actually would prefer it that way. Anyway, enough of that again. There were some funny stories, gruesome stories, whatever. But one was actually caught my eye. I'm not going to even try to pretend to read them because every time I do, I listen to my shows that I actually record and put up, and then I can see how bad I really sound. And when I stumble over a bunch of words, that's a red flag. It's like, listen, I need to back off just a little bit and not pretend to actually able to read something live, or at least record something that I read out loud and it sounded like total garbage. I'm not going to do that, hopefully for a while. So anyway, there was this article. It was on Uproxx Web Culture, and this was from out of New Jersey. I thought it was kind of funny, but it says basically that I can at least read the titles. I can't screw those up too much. This horrifying testicle-eating fish with human teeth was caught in New Jersey, and it was at a man-made type of lake. And the guy who caught the fish, I guess it was two guys, maybe one was a father-son type deal, but they hold back the mouth of this fish. It's actually related to the piranha, but it is not a piranha, but it looks like a piranha almost. I think it's actually slightly bigger though. But it's in the same family because it has teeth, and I think I might get this right actually. That's gonna even give me a heart attack. It's called a pacu, and the pacu are nicknamed testicle eaters because that's their favorite diet when they can get them. Yeah, men's testicles. So that's really I thought it was hilarious. But they do look like the guy's holding back the lip of the fish. Yeah, fish don't have lips, I know. But it looks like a lip, but they're holding back the mouth. And you can see the teeth, and they really do look like, the fish's teeth look like human teeth because they're flat on top. And they literally look like molars from a human's mouth, but they're from this pacu. So that was pretty funny. You can read that on Uproxx, by the way. This one I just seen. I'm not going to say what I'm going to do with pictures later, but there's a ton of pictures. This was on Daily Mail, and it's titled, "Would This Woman Turn Your Head?" A grandmother of 58 who says her beauty stops traffic tests her claim on London streets with underwhelming results. Yeah, she kind of looks a little bit older than 58, but she is in really good condition. She's well built for her age. She obviously is very healthy. And I'll leave it at she's definitely got a pair of healthy lungs. She's British, but she's definitely very attractive. And yeah, she would definitely turn my head. I'll leave it at that. And that was on the UK Daily Mail. A friend had sent me, by the way, as a joke, some tailgating type comments. Because today, I don't know what it is, there's been so many asshole drivers on the road. I lost count. In fact, today, a friend, my parents told me that some truck actually, I don't know why, but they obviously were driving recklessly and drove right over a fire hydrant, and it got stuck there. So they had to get a tow truck to get it all, remove it. Probably more than just a tow truck, because it was like literally stuck on top of the fire hydrant, according to my parents. They had the road shut down too. So I said I promise I'm not going to try to read these stories. Again, titles alone can tell a lot. This is one that came up yesterday, and it's Daily UK Mail, and it says a 5'4" World War II veteran, 88 years old, fights off a knife-wielding burglar, and says, "I remember my army training. I could have done them a lot more damage." So that's pretty. You know what? High five to this man. I think he was actually a professional boxer, but he's almost pushing 90, and he was able to beat the crap out of two people that were burglars. That's very impressive. I'm not even kidding. I think that's really cool. Funny thing that I saw on Uproxx again. This was actually really funny. Somebody videotaped their cat at the back screen door of their house, and obviously they have. It's got to be a wooded area because they had a little bear, like a cub, but actually, yeah, it looked like the size of a cub. And it was kind of getting the house, and the cat scared it off. And there's a video of that. So it says fluffy cat stood its ground. So yeah, the pissed off house cat basically scared off a bear, and it's a black bear too. So they're pretty dangerous. I'm sure the cubs are a little bit less harmless, but are harmful. But it still did. It was a mountain lion. Mountain lion. No, okay, that's talking about the cat. But yeah, it was pretty funny though. You can watch that video, and it's on Uproxx Web Culture, titled "Watch This Pissed Off House Cat Scared the Living Hell Out of a Bear." And I swear to God, it looks like a black bear. And they're not very friendly. It was a small one, so it had to be a cub. Hey, if you're interested, again, I'm not going to destroy these stories like I did last night. Comicbook.com movie says rumor Chris Terrio to write and Ben Affleck to direct the Batman for 2018 release. Yeah, I know. I said I wasn't going to screw anything up, and I just did. I screwed up this poor man's name. But they're already talking about the 2018 Batman movie that's going to have Ben Affleck in there. I guess he's going to do a standalone movie, I assume. So, and you know what? Ben Affleck has actually directed some really good movies. They're not my type of movie, but they obviously, he's done some movies that, did really well in the box office. I mean, they're not junk. So he's a really good director. So I'm kind of neat to see that. That would be neat to see that in the next 2 years. Well, actually 3 years. What am I saying? Anyway, there was one from the Daily Mail again, and this one was actually interesting, where a python tries to swallow a porcupine whole, and it basically dies from the puncture wounds in its stomach from the porcupine. Like, the porcupine basically gets the last laugh. Now, it probably suffocated because it was being digested in this python's stomach, but was trying to see where this was at. South Africa. But yeah, it says a bitter quill to swallow. And it says python tries to bite off more than it can chew by eating a whole porcupine, and it dies when the spikes puncture its insides. So, you know what? I basically sent it to a friend. I said, that's karma. And they actually show on the same page, there was one where a python actually swallows a deer whole. So it might have been a little one, but still, these pythons are dangerous. I mean, if they can swallow anything the size of a porcupine or a small deer, I would be careful with your children too. Now, this is in South Africa, but that's like actually British colony, so you got to be really, that's really scary actually. I'm pulling up another one. It was on Huffington Post Crime, and it said over 1,100 arrests in nationwide sweep for allegedly sexually preying on kids. Justice Department. So they do that randomly, occasionally, whatever you want to call it, and they do these sweeps on getting all these sex offenders, and they just did one recently, and they gathered up. Again, it says over 1,100 people that are sexual predators. And you know where I'm going to go with this. I wonder how many of them are women. So, anyway, I don't know. So, hey, this one was pretty cool. A little bit lighter. Daily Mail again, instead of Huffington Post. And it actually says, is the hoverboard finally here? Slide concept levitates using electromagnets and liquid nitrogen. And it's actually, I thought it's at Lexus. Yeah. The Tokyo branch of Lexus claims they have made a working hoverboard. So it shows you a little video. They're very skeptic. They don't think it's for real because there was something like that before where they try to convince you, oh, yeah, the hoverboard was, a real hoverboard was made and it was a hoax. And they even got the guy to play Doc in the movies. I can't remember his name, Christopher Lloyd, and he was in on it. But they fooled everybody, and they came out and said, "Oh no, it's just a joke." So I guess they're very skeptical from that one. You know what? Here's another story. Oh God, it was on the Daily Mail. I didn't realize that. That it's another thing about pyramids on another planet. I don't go by that stuff. This is Mars this time. Give it a rest. I mean, God, anything just to sell a story. I'm sorry, but it says alien hunters discover a pyramid on Mars and claims that the near-perfect structure was built by ancient civilizations. Yeah, there's really life on Mars. And you know what? If you want to see what they look like, just watch the old cartoons of Bugs Bunny, and you see that little green Martian that said he's going to take over the Earth. That's the closest you're going to get to reality on Martians on Mars. I'm sorry. There was a story. At least I'm getting better stories. This was on Daily Mail. ISIS fighter is executed for spreading AIDS after he donated blood in Syria and passed on the virus to at least one other Islamist and a 15-year-old Yaz. You know what? I can't say that word. So you know what I'm going to do? A 15-year-old, it's spelled capital Y A-Z-I-D-I. I don't know what that means or how to pronounce that word. So I'm giving it to you. But it says a 15-year-old sex slave. So they execute him by basically cutting his head off. So, hey, I made the joke to a friend. I sent it to him. I said, well, good for you. So, well, I said it differently, but it was something on that line. He always uses that joke with me, so I had to put it back on him. Daily Mail, actually, I thought this was a joke. Apparently it's real with the girl with two vaginas. She really does have them. But I'm thinking, okay, so she has two holes, two, what do you call it? Clitorises or whatever. Hey, I don't know. I can't tell you because I have no luck with women, so I wouldn't know how to explain it. So you know more than I do out there. So anyway, it says it's titled "I'm a raging hormonal person." YouTube star with 2 vaginas opens up about the difficulties of living with the rare condition in candid Q&A video. So you can get that on YouTube apparently, and also on the Daily Mail. The story's on the Daily Mail, but she talks about it on the YouTube. But they show you a pictorial, at least, and it shows that she's got basically she's got a double uterus. So, and I'm not going to even try to explain it, but the pictures are on the UK Daily Mail, as I like to call it. She's really, not bad looking. I think she's really kind of hot. So, but, yeah, there's one opening at the very end of the Love Canal, but when it goes inside, it becomes, 2. So, it's very rare, but, yeah, she's one of the women that have that problem. So anyway, this one I had to make a joke about. It wasn't even funny, but it was on Daily Mail, and it says, a 4-hour erection and then death. The fate awaiting a man bitten by a deadly spider feared to have entered Britain in a bunch of Tesco bananas. Never heard of them. Tesco bananas? Anyway, I basically sent it to 2 friends, and I basically said, well, I'm sure the wife wasn't too upset about that, because right before her husband died, at least he had a 4-hour erection she was able to, play with. So I know that was totally off the, that's very inappropriate, but I just couldn't help myself. No puns intended there. You know what's actually getting to me right now, by the way, is that this big deal, I think Rush was talking about again today. I feel bad. I haven't really spent much time listening to the shows that I'm paying for on his. And that's where I get a lot of my news most of the time, at least ideas for news. But they're still going off back and forth about this Confederate flag. So I didn't get it from Rush initially, but he was talking about it today. And I guess even who stepped in now was on the Conservative Tribune webpage, is the guy that used to play on the Dukes of Hazzard, because why would he step in? It's not John Schneider, it's the other guy. And I think it's the other guy. But he made a lot of friends all of a sudden, because one thing, the Confederate flag is part of our history, and now they're trying to wipe it out of existence. They're even trying to wipe out certain parts of our forefathers, whatever, because they're part of this whole history thing. Is they're trying to erase part of history, and anything that seems offensive is going to be gone, and the Confederate flag is part of it. So anyway, the guy from the Dukes of Hazzard, and again, it's not John Schneider. I don't know who he was on the show, because I don't even think it's the other guy. They used to be in General Lee. But speaking of that, what is on the General Lee? It was a Confederate flag on the roof, and there was one on the front. On the little license plate type thing. So, it was okay, if they're going to make a big deal out of this, and then Rush was talking about it after I came up with the idea, it's you know what, I got to get one of these Confederate flags before they're impossible, because this one article said that places like Walmart and Amazon has done it too, and they said eBay, but I've seen them on there. They're actually banning Confederate flags now. They don't want you to have them. So it's okay, you know what? And Rush was right, because I noticed this myself. They are now going for up to $1,000 for Confederate flags, because now that people know that they're being banned, they want them even more. So, that, and he says, oh, I should have cashed in on this. And it's yeah, you're actually right. So anyway, I'm just going to read titles, because I can't screw them up that way, but I didn't really follow this one too closely, because I forgot my power cord to my good laptop, so I had very limited amount of time I could spend on my laptop before it would die. Anyway, it was called. It was on Huffington Crime, and it said, "Fire at Black Church in North Carolina ruled arson." So this is all coming from those people getting murdered. Now, the loved ones of the people at that Black Church got murdered, I understand. I think according to Rush that they already forgave the guy who killed their loved ones. They know when it's not going to change anything. The damage is already done, unfortunately. And that was one thing, actually. I went to a Catholic school, and that was one thing that they made me read was the book from Helen Prejean, which was Dead Man Walking. And her whole thing was, which I don't know if I could agree with it 100%, but her whole thing was, you got to forgive the people who had like murdered your loved ones. That was the whole thing about Dead Man Walking. And I was kind of intrigued because Helen Prejean like came to the school across the street from where I went to school. And that was actually I was at Cabrini. It was Eastern, and I actually got to see her in person, Helen Prejean. And there was a girl that came up and she said, "Yeah, my loved ones, her family members, her I don't know if it was her brother or mom and dad or what, but she said, "Oh, my family got killed by this guy." And she actually saw the guy and says, "But she actually found in her heart a way to forgive this guy who killed her family." And, I hate to say it though, but I have more respect for that girl than I have for myself. That's the bottom line. And I was intrigued. So the bottom line is, it really does take a bigger man to be able to do that, or a woman, than somebody who just holds the grudge and just doesn't know when to let the grudge go. I probably would be the same way, but I'm just saying in general. So you can call me a hypocrite, basically, because I probably am. 2 stories. This one is just catching my attention, so I'm not going to read it, because it's all pictures anyway. But it was on trendingimagestoday.net, and it's this really adorable baby, and she has no nose, and she's got like the happiest bubbly face. But this poor kid has no freaking nose, and yet it doesn't seem to bother. Well, they don't know because it's a baby. So that really got to me. I put that up on my Facebook page. There was another one on the Daily Mail, and it is really disturbing, just to let you know now. But it says, necks cut open and spine severed alive just so they can be made. And that is $40,000 Birkland handbags and watch straps. The pollen suffering of the crocodiles at designer leather farms exposed in undercover video. Now, you know what? I'm very ultra-conservative. I believe anybody should be able to do and whatever. I'm not one of these animal activists, but this is something that I can't deny. Yeah, it's really cruel. I mean, they literally cut these crocodiles open and severed their spines while they are still alive. So that to me is just... that's where you have to say, you know what, this is way out of line. Do you really need, that would be one of these things. I hate to act like one of these wacko leftists, but yeah, do you really need real crocodile skin for your purse or your watch? That I don't understand. And this is going to be my last story probably, because I'm probably going over time anyway than I want to, because I want to go to bed soon too. Anyway, Rush was actually talking about this too. Obviously he got off the Daily Mail because he was pretty much saying exactly the same thing I'm looking at now. And it says, sickening new ISIS video shows caged prisoners lowered into swimming pool and drowned, shot with an RPG and blown up with explosive-filled necklaces. And the pictures are all in the Daily Mail. I mean, yeah, these people, that's like really beyond sickening. That's like these little kids who torture animals. You know what they say about that? Usually kids who torture animals generally are end up growing up to be like serial killers or something. Well, these people, hey, that's more than just a red flag. That's like, okay, yeah, they're doing the same thing that wacko kids would do, and you don't see a problem with this. And the reason Rush, by the way, he brought it up, he was just pointing out, like, they're comparing now in the United States that these people that are mentally ill, basically, I guess is what he's insinuating. Like the guy just recently from from South Carolina, North Carolina, the guy who shot those innocent people in that church, that black church, they are now, the media is now comparing that to ISIS, and they're saying that we are more, basically, I'm paraphrasing my own words now because I do better that way, that we are more inhumane than these ISIS people on the stuff they're doing. And again, drowning prisoners in a swimming pool, like you do with like animals or cats, like when you put them in a satchel, like the same idea, and drown them to death in a cage, blowing them up in a car, and putting explosives around the men's necks and blowing them all up. That's more humane than what that kid did. I mean, are they? Yes, they're both murder, and they are, they're both homicidal acts, but one is really torturing a person before you kill them. Either one is not right. But I would have to say, I hate to tell you, I think the ISIS situation, or those people, are much worse than what that kid did. There is no comparison there. And it depends how you look at it. And obviously people just look at it the way they want to. They don't look at the whole picture. So anyway, everyone, I said I was going to cut it short, and I really did not. So everyone have a good night, or I should say a good morning. It's a good night for me because it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30, but it's actually Thursday morning. So everyone, enjoy your Thursday, and I will be back again.